And that concerning God doesn't care if men live as men or if women live as women, I would say that that refers to your sanctioning of same-sex attraction, because the most unmasculine thing that a man can do is be attracted to another man, and the most unfeminine thing a woman can do is to be attracted to another woman, because entailed in biblical masculinity and biblical femininity, according to Genesis 2, is God literally took a piece of the man and made the woman, and then he's missing something from his body, and then she's missing something, and so God brings the two back together to become one flesh, and that includes what it means to be masculine or feminine. And you're saying that sexuality seems to be separate from biology, it sounds like.
Okay, so I do want to come back to sex and gender are different, because I think that's important to tease out. So am I hearing you say that if, say, I believe that somebody experiences same-sex attraction, then they are not living as then they are a biological, let's say for instance, a biological male who, you would say if biological male experiences same-sex attraction, then therefore they are not living as a man? Would you, because if that's what you mean by this, then I guess I wouldn't word it this way. I mean, this is so super misleading and unclear, but if that's what you mean by that, then I guess I can say, sure, I guess I would agree that we disagree on that.
I'm saying it's not sin, number one. Okay, number one. And then number two, I'm saying that you believe you can sublimate that you can sublimate homosexual orientation. Is that correct? You can turn it to something holy?
I don't even, I mean, I would need to unpack that. That's taking us to a different direction. I guess I just want to get clarity on this one statement, because I think you're misrepresenting me. So I want to make sure that you either are or aren't. But I want to understand what you're saying here, that God, again, specifically, that God doesn't care if men live as men or women live as women. Because there's people saying, like, Preston, do you believe that? I'm like, no, I don't believe that. Like, where'd you get that? I'm like, well, so-and-so said it or whatever. I'm like, well, I've never said that. I don't believe that. So that's why I'm trying to get clarity here. It sounds like, again, you're once again lying about what I believe when I don't believe that. But again, I'm when you say men, can you define when you say men living as men?
Men living as men would be not being sexually attracted to other men. Something that you say is not sin. All right. And something I believe you say can be turned to holiness, or it can be turned in a way that does honor God. That you say that homosexuality or homosexual orientation cannot be reduced to the sex act, that there are non-sexual, non-genital things that are entailed in homosexual orientation that can be sanctified. Is that what you believe?
Can I come back to that? Because I do want to put a bow on this, because I'm more than happy to unpack what I believe about what you're getting there.
You don't think
so here's my if my recommendation, Jared, please hear me. This is, I know some of these things can get caught to where you're trying to like corner somebody, whatever. I want to, this is a genuine recommendation. I think we have very different views on what men living as men is. So I don't think this is a helpful phrase for you to use to describe me, because what you mean by this phrase is quite different than what most people are going to hear. Like, this doesn't, if you want to say Preston believes that somebody can be same-sex attracted and still be a godly man as a man and remain single, how dare he? He's a heretic. If you want to say that, I'm totally fine with that. Because yeah, I actually believe that. I believe somebody can be same-sex attracted and be a godly man, depending on what they do with that attraction. So I totally believe that. I'm perfectly fine with you saying I believe that. But when you say I believe God doesn't care if men live as men or women live as men, and that's just at the very least, it's somewhere ranging between a full-on lie to a very misleading statement of what I believe.
What if I say that Preston believes that a man who's having same-sex desires, that he can act on those and glorify God if they are non-sexual, non-genital. What if I say that? You
I don't
believe
even know
that?
what you mean. I would let me summarize. I mean, you could say Preston believes that simply being same-sex attracted is not a morally culpable sin. Same-sex lust is a sin. Same-sex sexual behavior is a sin. But if you simply experience same-sex attraction, that is not what I would consider a morally culpable sin that somebody needs to repent from. Can I give you and so if you say that's actually what I believe and what I think I've said and written everywhere else. Like, there's a chance I might have said something off the cuff that wasn't the exact wording, but that is what I believe. Now, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
That's heresy according to church history. What you just said.
Okay, that's fine that you believe that. As
No,
long as you say that phrase,
it's a fact, brother. I mean, you need to go read all that church history. Like, I know you're well read. I'm not, I'm not making a negative statement about your reading or anything. But on this subject, you're terribly mistaken from church history. Even if your distinction between lust and this pre-lust desire, that is absent from church history.
Okay,
That's just
fine, yeah.
It's just absent. I mean,
Eastern or Western? I'm curious. Eastern or Western church history?
You're an You're an innovator. Is what you are. You have the modern Roman Catholic position, which basically from the 1700s forward, especially expressed in the most recent catechism of the Roman Catholic Church. But the Council of Trent would call the modern church, Roman Catholic Church, heretics for their understanding of sin.
Yeah.
And so anyway,
I'm fine. That's fine. You can. I'm totally fine with you saying Preston, according to church history, is a heretic, as long as you summarize what I actually am saying and believing. That's honestly my only concern. So I don't want to kick a dead horse here because there are a few other things to get to. I don't know. We're kind of at a stalemate here on God doesn't care if men live as men. Yeah. Let me just say it one more time, I guess. I think I don't believe that. I think we're going to have different definitions of what we each mean by men living as men, and women as women. But
well, I think encouraging someone to act on the non-sexual or the aspects of their same-sex attraction is you're essentially telling men that part of the way that Adam looked at Eve, they're looking at another man that way, non-sexually, because it comes from homosexual orientation, and you're telling them that it's okay to act on those desires that are not inherently sexual, but they're still from homosexual orientation, and that is encouraging a man to essentially act on a desire that Eve would have had, not Adam.
Okay.
And that is the opposite of living according to one's design, either male or female. It is effeminate to tell someone who's having same-sex desires that there are elements of that same-sex attraction that can be sanctified. Telling a man that. You're telling him he doesn't have to live according to masculinity.
What do you mean? How would you define masculinity? And that might be helpful.
Well, it's definitely not acting on homosexual orientation, number one.
What do you mean by acting on? Like having sex with another dude? Or
no, I'm talking about the same-sex friendships that your ministry advocates for.
Okay, so
the celibate partnerships, that is pure effeminacy that you're sanctifying. You're literally turning biological God's design upside down, just in a less heinous way than men having sex with men. But it is still encouraging what you say you don't believe.
So you would say, and we'll get the celibate partnerships, because if somebody isn't familiar with that, we need to unpack what that means, and what we have actually said about that. So you would put that in the category, though, if two people are attracted to the same sex, they're committed to celibacy, and they are committed to a non-sexual lifelong friendship, that is an example of a man not living as a man. Would you say that that's true?
It is because you're arguing that it comes from same-sex
So wait,
attraction. Y'all aren't
I'm so,
arguing for same-sex attracted men to go find opposite-sex women to befriend and covenant with or anything like that. It's literally go find you desire same-sex intimacy because of your homosexual orientation, and you need to go fulfill that. That can be sanctified, is what I'm understanding your
yeah.
ministry argues for.
So, okay, so this is actually helpful. So, if I believe that if you're a man and you're not actively pursuing a heterosexual marriage, then you are not living as a man. Would that be true? Is that what you think?
That is not what I said.
Okay.
What I said was your ministry is advocating for gay Christians or same-sex attracted Christians to reject the same-sex sexual attraction, but to sanctify the same-sex attraction by forming these covenant friendships with the same sex, even covenant households.
Okay, so it's the covenant friendships between two people who are attracted to the same sex that you would say that is by definition not living as a man. Is that true?
Absolutely, because
Okay.
y'all include same-sex attraction in there.
Okay.
This isn't two dudes getting together, and that's not what it is. Like, y'all are arguing that these guys have non-genital desires for same-sex intimacy that can be fulfilled in same-sex friendships. So it's not the same as like me for having a friend that I'm super close with. That's not what you're advocating, because it is particularly gay or homosexual. Y'all include that in it. And I
Okay.
even read in your ETS paper that you did in 2014, you reference David and Jonathan and Jesus and John as examples of this, and that couldn't be further from the truth.
So, okay, again, just to get clarity, I think the problem here, Jared, is that we have different definitions of men, what it means for a man to live as a man, a woman to live as a woman. I'm perfectly comfortable with those differences that we have. I don't think when you say God doesn't care I believe God doesn't care if men live as men or women live as women. And I think that is at the very least a gross misrepresentation of what I believe. So, but you haven't read my book, so I don't. In a sense, I'm like
It's not about book. It's about, I believe that sexuality is entailed in biology, and you seem to not believe that. You seem to believe that that a homosexual orientation is masculine, and I'm saying it's not. Like, do you believe a homosexual orientation is masculine?
I don't even know what you mean by both those phrases. Like, what do you mean masculine? What do you mean orientation? Like, we're going to have different categories of these things. And here I'm just so not interested in like debating these categories with you. So